It is well known that climate change can have an impact on both the physical characteristics of an ecosystem, along with affecting the species residing within that ecosystem. We have all seen the impact of warming climate has on animals living in a remote environment such as the Arctic. The melting of ice and reduction in species abundance are striking visualizations of climate change. Now, in less remote regions, there are equally as impactful but less visually striking changes occurring in aquatic environments. For example, cold-blooded species such as fish are dependent upon temperature for growth and their population density. Growth occurs in an optimal temperature for these species, and this growth can be inhibited by sustained changes in water temperature. Although not as striking as other environmental changes, the warming of water temperatures can have a profound impact on population abundance and a measure known as relative weight. This is a ratio of the average measured weights of a fish population and a standard weight for that species. It allows for analysis of a population's successive or recessive growth and can be used as a measure of how well a species is doing in their environment. One specific river system of interest is the Upper Mississippi River due to dramatic temperature changes in the recent decades. The river has experienced unusually rapid warming over the past 25 years of approximately 1.6 degrees Celsius. Now, for this project, we were curious about the relative weight of large piscivorous species within an ecosystem experiencing these warming temperatures. In order to perform this study, we decided to analyze data from the largest river ecosystem in the U.S., the Upper Mississippi River ecosystem. This river ecosystem is home to a variety of fish species with a trend of cooler to warmer water temperatures as the river flows south. Specifically, largemouth bass and walleye were decided upon as the candidates for this study, as they both are large predatory species and of economic importance. These species typically inhabit similar environments but thrive at separate temperatures. Largemouth bass are best adapted to river systems consisting of warmer water, while walleye instead tend to prefer cooler water temperatures. In order to investigate trends in relative weight, we utilized the long-term monitoring system. This system is part of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Upper Mississippi River Restoration Program, and the data collection program was collected by several state agencies. We selected our data based upon a few parameters. Firstly, the fish were collected through the process of electrofishing. This technique involves using a mild electrical current to stun the fish or capture them. It is a standardized technique that is widely used by fish biologists. For purposes of this study, electrofishing was standardized to 15-minute sampling intervals. Data is then collected on the fish such as their species, length, and weight. The program conducts dozens of these samples in each study area and each year and has been conducting this type of sampling since 1993. In this study specifically, we wanted to look at length, weight, and date of capture as these were closest to our interests. These figures were collected from the 3 uppermost field stations along the Mississippi River to control for variables such as the presence of invasive carp, which have reached high densities in areas downstream. Now, upon analysis of our data, we observed some significant trends in the upper 3 research stations. In the instance of the largemouth bass, the abundance has significantly increased over the past 3 decades. Along with their abundance, the largemouth bass have been demonstrating an increase in their relative weight as well. Conversely, the walleye have exhibited a statistically significant decrease in abundance over the past 3 decades. Additionally, the relative weight among the walleye population has either held steady or even decreased over the same interval of time. In general, there is a trend of increased abundance observed in the largemouth bass populations, while the walleye abundance has been trending downwards. Both of these species are large, piscivorous fish with potentially cascading impacts on their environments. With such similarities in their roles, it can be suggested that there is potentially an environmental factor influencing these trends in abundancy. Recent research suggests that there has been a significant rise in water temperatures through the upper Mississippi River of at least 1 degree Celsius. Additionally, these fish species are dependent upon an optimal temperature for growth. Plainly speaking, this means that these fish are able to add mass per unit of length at temperature best suited to that species. Walleye are known as a cool water species and thus are able to grow more efficiently in cooler temperatures. Meanwhile, largemouth bass, however, are a warm water species, and they grow better in warmer temperatures that would not necessarily be adapted well for the walleye. With the trend in abundance, temperature change, and the fish's dependence on temperature for growth, it can be postulated that a warming climate is responsible for the observed patterns of growth in these species. These findings, although preliminary, paint a picture of the impacts climate change could be having on fish populations in this and other river ecosystems. The warming of the upper Mississippi River is likely not occurring solely in the selected environment and may be foreshadowing findings to come from separate yet analogous river systems. Further research could include more species diversity and varied geographical locations to generalize these trends to more than just this region. Along with having implications on separate river ecosystems, these findings demonstrate an interesting phenomenon within the distribution of fish species. The results of this study do show that largemouth bass have increased in size and abundance, however the walleye have not altogether disappeared. Instead, it is likely that the species have shifted in what roles they fill in their ecosystem. With largemouth bass becoming somewhat more of the dominant predator, walleye remain, but their less dominant role may also be contributing to their reduced growth through less means of feeding. This is a unique phenomenon and would be of interest to determine if rising water temperatures in other river ecosystems are correlated to similar role exchanges.